In this week's video, I'm going to be telling you why I'm in a wheelchair. And before I actually start, I just want to say that I do not want anybody to feel sorry for me. My mistakes are my own, and nobody else should feel sorry for my own mistakes. My story starts when I was 17. This was when I was living by myself and working full-time as a checkout chick at the local supermarket. It happened on New Year's Eve 2007. I was drinking at the local pub until I got kicked out when they found out I was underage. So I went home, which was just around the corner and upstairs. And instead of calling it a night, which is what I should have done, I went out onto my balcony, I climbed over the railings, walked along the roof, and I was walking along the brick awning, which was about 7 meters from the footpath below. And being absolutely intoxicated, I thought that I was invincible, but turns out not so much. So walking along the roof and I slipped. As I fell, I broke my sternum, I broke my neck, I split my skull open, I broke my back, damaged my spinal cord, and landing legs first, broke both of my legs, broke my tailbone, and landing face down, I broke my nose and my wrist. And I want to give a huge thank you to Mark. You saved my life. So he went from completely drunk to sober within seconds and came to my rescue. I was completely unconscious, losing a shit ton of blood, and he held my head together to keep my brain from falling out, literally. So my heart stopped beating, I was losing a lot of blood. I think I lost about 5 liters of blood, and it took about half an hour for the ambulance to get there, and by this point, my heart had stopped beating and I was dead. And the only reason I was able to come back to life was that I had alcohol in my system, which pretty much kept my brain active and stopped my organs from failing and my body from going into shock. So when the ambulance got there, I was jump started with the defibrillator to get my heart going again. And I was taken by ambulance to the Orange Hospital, which was about 20 minutes outside of Molong where this happened. And while I was in the ambulance, my heart stopped beating quite a few times. And when I got to the Orange Base Hospital, they x-rayed me and made me as stable as they could. And I was airlifted to the Royal Prince Alfred Hospital in Sydney, where I was put under an induced coma for 3 weeks. And within this time, my parents were given the option to turn the life support off. My dad said no, and my mum's decision is the reason why I don't talk to her anymore. After 5 weeks in intensive care, I was stable enough to go to surgery where they operated on my broken body. And because both of my legs were broken, they were put in traction for 5 weeks and they'd start to set out of place. So they had to be rebroken and titanium rods were put into my legs. 6 titanium plates were put into the back of my neck, and I think that's called spinal fusion. After the 5 weeks that I spent in intensive care, I was taken to the Royal North Shore Hospital where I started my rehabilitation. And I had to learn how to do everything all over again. Because I had a brain injury, my facial muscles had to be retaught how to use. So I had to learn how to smile again. I had to learn how to talk. I had to learn how to communicate with other people. I had to learn how to write and draw and read, and everything that you do on a daily basis, I had to learn all of that from scratch. And now, almost 10 years later, I still have trouble with my lazy eye and I have a lot of trouble reading. After a few months at North Shore Hospital, I was taken to the Royal Ride Rehabilitation Centre where I continued my rehabilitation. And after a few months there, I was taken to the Murong Spinal Rehabilitation Centre to do more rehabilitation. And after a few months there, I was taken to the Bathurst Hospital where I spent, I think, 3 months there. And after a year in hospital, I was finally allowed to go home, where I moved in with my dad at Manildra. I was living with my dad in Manildra for almost a year until December 2009 when he died in a plane crash. And this gets me into 2010, which was totally crazy. So I'll bore you with all of the details. And in May 2010, I spent a few months at the Condobolin nursing home. I stayed in the high care ward, which was with all of the old people with dementia. I'm not even going to explain how horrible that was. After 3.5 months at the nursing home, finally, I got to move into my own place in Orange, where I live now. From where I've been in my life to where I am now, my life is fantastic. Yes, I'm in a wheelchair, and yes, I will be a quadriplegic for the rest of my life. But compared to where I was, my life is great. I am now living by myself in a self-contained unit. I have a cat, I have goldfish, and what I've learnt from my experience is to be more responsible with alcohol, to practice safe sex, and to be a lot more grateful for what I have. Thank you so much for listening to my story, and like I said at the start, please, please, please do not feel sorry for me. I am not looking for sympathy. I just want to tell my story and hope that some people might learn from my experience and you might get something from my story. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and please subscribe if you haven't already. I love you all, and I'll see you next week. Bye!